welcome to Quick Take. I'm one of your hosts, Susie Tomanchuk, along with my co-host James Capps. How are you today, James?
I'm super great. How about you, Suze?
Good.
Susie.
So good to see you. But we knew that you couldn't bring the whole thing today, so we have a friend with us.
We needed some firepower. We brought some big brains to the show today.
That's right. So please meet our friend Todd Porch. How are you, Todd?
I'm great. Thanks, Susie. Good to see you. Good to see you, James.
Yeah. Great seeing you here.
Yes. We're very excited. And Todd, tell us about yourself. Give us a little grounding around your career journey and what you do now.
Sure. So, one, thank you guys for inviting me to participate. What a fun experience. Or at least I think it's going to be.
We'll see how it turns out.
Susie, I currently serve as the president of Strategist, and Strategist is a managed service company that services and executes ad campaigns in the connected television space. I've done that for about 2.5 years. Prior to that, I served in a number of different roles at Comcast, both domestically and internationally. And I started my journey in the advertising world at Yahoo in 1999. So I've just aged myself. I was at Yahoo for 14 years in some of the very early ups and downs, and ended my career there when I was poached by Comcast and served in some video roles and some company integration roles as we purchased new assets, and then took a flyer about 2.5 years ago and moved to effectively a startup, and it's been a ton of fun. I've learned a lot about myself and about how to run a holistic business, not just different divisions within a big enterprise.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a real different story there. Different game altogether. And interesting that you went from basically a larger corporations, Comcast, Yahoo, to now, running a smaller organization, but also being, the guy at the top. So I'd love to hear some of the things that you do to really, bring your best to the table and be an effective leader.
Oh gosh. I don't know. Yeah, I hope I'm an effective leader. I think my folks are look through a pretty critical lens. They're really honest with me. And so, look, I'm great some days, but some days I'm not awesome at all. And that probably lends to, one of my leadership rituals is I wake up every day and look myself in the mirror, and audibly, literally for the last 30 years in whatever role that I'm in, I look in the mirror and I'm like, hey, Porch, don't screw this up today. I feel
good.
humble to be in the spot that I am in, to be trusted and given the reins to run and influence what I'm tasked with doing. That's a very humbling thing to me. So that typically at the beginning of every day kind of puts me in the right spot. Like, hey, be mindful, be thoughtful, be intentional about what you do today, where you spend your time. So that would certainly be probably the first one that I think about.
Really like that. Well, before you jump on the second one, I wanted to comment on that first one. I just think that actual verbalization, using it out loud, is such a great centering technique and such a good way of making sure, like you said, you're present for the day. I think that's great, and it's really fascinating. You've been doing that for 30 years.
What's even more fun is that I live with 4 women, and none of them are shy.
Wait, let's not take that out of context. That's interesting in and of itself. Okay.
None of them are shy with their opinions. So, over the years, as my kids have gotten older, they'll hear me say it, right?
Yeah.
And they'll put their head around the corner. They'll be like, "What are you not going to screw up today, Dad? Like, what is?"
Yeah.
Or my wife will be like, well, don't do it like you did it the last time. She doesn't hold back
as long as a
either.
peanut gallery.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of is a bit of a family joke now that
That's great.
but I do it, and I really mean it. It puts me in the right. It gets me in the game, I guess, every morning.
Sure.
So
it's so important. I think people think that leadership is a destination, and yeah, this is something everybody says, is it really is a journey. And it's really great to think, and I think it's important for people to know a president of a company still has to intentionally step into your best self every day and have that vulnerability. To me, that's a practice of, I am vulnerable to just say, I better be really intentional about how I move into the day. So I love that.
Well, Susie, you and I have talked about this, right? Like the whole. I mean, I don't care what role that you're in and what company.
Yeah,
Like as you grow, as you grow and mature and develop and are step into new places, the imposter syndrome is alive and well. Like
absolutely.
that is an element that everybody deals with, and if they say they don't, I find it hard to believe, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I totally agree.
everybody, especially if you're responsible for revenue or people or culture or all of these things that when you look at them individually, you're like, I don't know how we're going to do that. Like I gotta put the right stable of people around that, and I gotta encourage them and press them and push them and prod them and and celebrate with them as we do it. But without that, kind of that entire cocktail, that imposter syndrome will chew you up and spit you
Yeah,
out.
Totally will. That's
love
a
it.
great insight. What's your second ceremony that you do?
Probably one of the hardest things for me, just given our culture today and all of the inputs and outputs that we are responsible for, and fighting against Slacks and emails and text messages and phone calls and Zoom calls and Teams call, like the time to think, I think is sorely under indexed.
Oh, so true.
So taking time, getting out of the routine to think about your business and think about your people and think about your customers and doing that in a way or in a place that you don't get distracted. I think that's something that I've practiced, probably realistically for 4 or 5 years. I started doing that when I lived in London, kind of 2016. One, because I needed the time to think because I was learning so much, just having moved to a different market and not knowing anything about it and the people and the business process. And so I found myself having to take that time so that I could get my head around exactly what I was doing. And then I just parlayed that into kind of my normal routine as I got back to the States 3 years later. So
yeah, I think that's so important. But I do the same thing, and I know a lot of execs do, and they have that time carved out. For me, I found I was doing it before I knew I was doing it, where I found that, hey, I'm oftentimes finding this hour where and it gives me so much energy, and it was more of a mother of necessity, I think, where I was finding that if I didn't have that, or I would craft that hour in the morning, and it makes all the difference in the world. And I remember reading, most executives do get up early and do some of that type of thing. I'm like, well, geez, I've been doing that for 5 years and didn't realize how effective it was and how critical it really was until I put a name to it. But you can't get through the day without giving yourself some time for that kind of just that pause.
But from my perspective, you're putting me out of business because people hire me to make that space. And I can't tell you how many times people will be like so impressed by me, but they really just need that space to get their thoughts out. And I can repeat what they're saying, and they have these ahas. So I absolutely have seen it in person, that these changes. So anyway, I'm not being serious, but I think it's so powerful, but we don't make that space or that time because we believe that these other priorities or like this busyness sucks us in, like you said. So
It's
you
the
have
first
to
thing that
make
goes
it.
out the window, right?
Totally.
It's what's sacrificed, right?
Yep.
Because when your phone, when your phone's dinging, or your Slack is pinging you, and it's somebody that needs you and it completely gets prioritized over self-preservation time, right?
Yeah.
Totally right.
Yeah.
And self-preservation time turns into strategic time, right?
Totally.
And
Yep.
that's another thing that I think is, first of all, anytime the word strategic is used, I try to run the other direction, because it makes I think it's people trying to make things more important than they are. Like, look, we just want to run a good business. We want our people to be supported. We want the business to run efficiently. We want to drive more revenue. Like, don't call it strategic. Like,
right.
it's what we need to do as leaders, right? It's leadership.
Leadership.
So, anyway,
Love it.
sorry, you got me on the box, man.
No, I think that's
this is the soapbox for you.
Totally. So what's the third one?
I think the word balance is sorely overused these days, but for balance for me is, if I'm working 70 or 80 hours a week and I'm not seeing my kids, and I'm not seeing my my buddies, and I'm not spending my time, that balance is really important. And it's not the time element that we just talked about. This is for me, it's I'm charged up by people. And so I got to get around my people, and those people they serve me in different ways. I've got my personal board of directors people, and I got my golf buddies people, and I got my Bible study guys people, and those are the folks that if I eliminate them from my routine, I tend to get grumpy, grouchy, and I don't lead well. So those people are batteries for me, and just the conversation, the engagement, and they ask me questions.
Sure.
All of them are charged with holding me accountable for what I say is important to me. So
that self-care is, I think, key. I think that it is, that's just self-care that so often we don't take time for. And I love the fact that you created a self-care space for yourself that's unique and custom to what you need. People are batteries to you, and you've got a series of battery banks, and that's really cool to see that in action.
Well, it's interesting, Jace, because my wife is an introvert and I'm not. So oftentimes I'm going one way and she's going the other. She's getting away from people, and that's what charges up her battery. And just knowing that about one another gives us freedom to go do what we need to do, and there's not resentment in that, right? So I'll be like, hey, I've made dinner reservations with so and so. She's like, I'm not going to that. That sucks my battery dry. Versus me is like, hey, I gotta go because I gotta get charged up. So it's good.
I think a great question then is really to say, what charges your batteries outside of whatever that is, to honor you and making sure that you make the space for that. I think that's so important.
It's good stuff.
I love it.
It is.
I think that's really the key right there. Right. Take a moment to really understand what that self-care is for you, because it is unique to everybody.
So I'm going to challenge James, because James always is able to take the three and sum it up. So what are the three that Todd just said? James, can you bring it back?
Subconsciously, part of my lizard brain was already doing the summary there, so I was not as surprised as you would think. I think the first one which I really loved was take time for yourself. Get yourself ready for the day, and I think he does it in two really fun ways. One is put some time aside to think, and really bring yourself to presence and just allow yourself to step away from all the distractions. I love the other one too. Center yourself. This, don't screw this up, Porch. I love that T-shirt. We're going to sell those in the merch room here in a little bit. Just that mantra, that recognition, that reminder of the importance you play, but also the humility and humbleness that go along with that. And then obviously this third one is, do self-care. we talk about that a lot on the show, and I think people again need to be reminded that you are your best tool in that regard. And so I love it. Focusing on the self-care is huge. Great stuff, Todd.
Awesome.
You guys are awesome. It's fun to talk with you guys. I wish we were doing it like we used to every day in the hallway, and now we get to do it. Now we get to do it online, but it's fun to be with you guys, and can't thank you enough for having me.
Well, tell people, how do they find you, Porch, as your friends call you, so they can all call you that? How do they find you?
Look, my mother called me Todd when I was in trouble, so Porch I'm a last name guy. I wish I ran a summer camp. That would be my dream. Anyway, we can go into that at a different time. You can get me
next week on the show.
It's Porch, Porch at strategist.com, strategus.com.
Okay. Awesome. And you can also find him on LinkedIn, as you can find James and I, and feel free to reach out. We all love to connect and love to hear what's on your mind. And, if we want to understand that next episode with Porch, we will bring him back. So let us know.
Right. The summer camp, Porch summer camp. I love it.
That's right. Well, so thanks for being here. If you know somebody that would benefit from the wisdom of Porch, feel free to forward this episode on to them. But as we really appreciate our quicksters, right, James? We love our quicksters.
Right. Love hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for all your feedback.
Thanks for being here, and we appreciate you.